think we need to organise a dog walker.
I think so. It was such a mission to try and set him up tonight, so we'll probably get rudely interrupted by our lovable dog Archie, so apologies beforehand if you hear a bark.
Apologies. But I think we need to organise someone on a weekly basis, just one night a week, an hour walk, get him out of here.
Yeah.
So we can, because this is hard to do sometimes. Sit down and focus without the barking and the biting and the chomping.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And we want to do this one hopefully eventually on a bit more regular basis and a little bit more current. So we need someone to look after him. So people out there.
Anyway, that's our problem. Your problem is to listen to this episode. It's episode number 10 now.
Far out. I can't believe we got to 10 already. Thank you to everybody that's followed us along this whirlwind journey of the podcast that is Look Mom Hustling.
Very appreciative.
Yeah.
Here's to 10 more. Cheers.
Oh, yes. Cheers.
At least 10 more.
And this one's a little bit different for us because we're doing it at night time and we usually do it during the daytime. So we've got a lovely cup of tea.
Cup of tea.
Yeah.
Instead of a coffee. Probably should have had a coffee. Maybe an 8 p.m. coffee. Be a bit much.
Oh, no, I wouldn't sleep at all. You'd be hustling all night long.
Hustling all night long. But let's get into today's chat. So it's a different type of hustle, I guess. We watched a recent TV show on Binge. I think it's on Hulu in America. I could be wrong. Called Generation Hustle.
Yeah, it's actually a really interesting show. It's either like targeting young people or by young people, but it's just like hustling but scamming.
More scamming and conning and conniving characters than go-getters, I would say.
Yeah, it's just like this, because I guess this generation promotes like hustling and all that kind of stuff. So
Hustle
people
culture.
are trying to like, make money, get there as quick as they can. So you have a lot of these people just coming in, not paying attention to the rules whatsoever.
Just breaking the law.
Yeah.
And you have the government coming down on you, in which case a lot of these people did. So there's 10 episodes, I think.
Yeah, and we probably go into some maybe a little bit later on, but we just decided to focus on like 3 that we thought were pretty interesting.
Yep.
Such varied stories as well. But this first one, should I dive into it?
Yeah, let's just segment them up. So we'll jump into it. It was the first episode, this one?
Yeah, so this was the very first episode. It is called The Hollywood Con Queen. Do you remember much about this episode?
I do. Yep.
Yeah. So this one here, it particularly targets young people. It's more of like a social media scam. So they approach people like from Instagram and stuff. So just up and coming either influencers or photographers, maybe actors or things like that.
Actual hustlers.
Yeah, like people that are just ready to make the next step. So someone approaches you like a sponsor and be like, yo, what about all this money? And then start building like these sort of relationships.
Yep.
But the biggest difference between this one is like they were super like in-depth scams as well. So what they'll do is they'll like target someone, research like their background, and then target a scam specifically designed for that person.
Right. So the person's dived all the way in. Probably spent weeks, if not months, researching a person, their hobbies, their I guess their passions, their interests, and then catered the scam to them.
Yeah.
This is like, are we talking like a common thing, or this is like we're talking about just the story. This episode, right?
Yeah, this episode, but apparently there's like a lot of types of similar scams.
Right.
Because they'll make up fake websites, domain names, like blogs, all that kind of stuff. Will have like completely fake in-depth profiles that you wouldn't even question to begin with. Yeah, be like, oh, this looks totally legit, 100K followers, all that kind of stuff.
So in this instance, the person doing the scam was imitating like movie producers and like high up people in the entertainment industry, right?
Yeah. So like heaps of different people, but the main ones, I guess the people that wanted to do the interview or do the doco was like they mainly impersonated Wendy Murdoch. And her assistant Aaron, and then I think it was Leanne Jobs as well. So like those are the main kind of like
never heard of them.
No, the Murdoch, Murdoch newspaper.
Sure.
Yeah, those ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, they mainly impersonated those ones. So like approached photographers and things like that.
So they imitated the people in higher up places in production companies and in wealthy spots, and basically approached photographers and actors and stuff like that or whatever to essentially do what? What do they try and get them to do?
Well, it depends on the person. So this particular story focuses on 3 people. So like Gregory, who's like this nerdy sort of screenwriter.
Yep.
Nathaniel, who's like this super fresh like photographer. So he's not super green, but still quite shy and new into the business.
Okay.
The other one who was my favorite was Damien, the Aussie extreme athlete guy.
That dude was hilarious.
Yeah, he was so good. And then Jessie, who was like more of established photographer, like her like parents are well up in the, I guess, society chain and stuff like that. So she, you know, I think with her particular story, like her dad was actually friends with like Rupert Murdoch. So to her, it wouldn't seem like a scam. Be like, oh, Wendy's like email me to do this job. Like totally legit.
Totally feasible, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just like 3 or 4 people targeted by this one scam, right? And obviously they did, I think at the end of the episode, how much money did they end up scamming out of? So it was like a two-year process, right? They were scamming hundreds of people.
Yeah, depending on, I think it ended up being like millions and millions of dollars. But like that screenwriter guy, they got like $100K out of him.
So the way they were getting money out of them is they were saying, we have jobs in Southeast Asia and Thailand and stuff. We need you to come in, take photos or just look at locations or just basically just come here and we'll just tell you what to do when you get here.
Yeah.
And then what happens? How do they get the money out of them?
Well, so that's what they all have in common. So like they start building up this relationship and they're like, all right, we need you to fly out.
Yep.
So that's like the first step. And then so once they fly out, they're like, keep all the receipts, keep all the documentation, you'll get reimbursed afterwards.
Okay, so that the scam was, we'll fly you out. You got a huge deal coming.
Yeah. You'll have all this money, you got this contract.
But you need to put some upfront costs there and the upfront costs were never recouped. That's the scam.
Yeah, pretty much. And then so because they were in like a foreign country and things like that and they were like didn't have working visas, they had to pay like daily permits. So some were like forking out like $800 to $1,000 per day for like a permit. So they wouldn't get, I guess, bothered or anything like that. They'd have to exchange their currency at these super like dodgy currency places. So like all these scams sort of had things in common.
But if you buy it, like I've watched it with you, but obviously the people going there as part of the scam are all by themselves. So not like they're with a crew or an entourage. They're by themselves and they're getting chauffeured around by a person that's probably in on the scam and stuff. Yeah. And you have no choice but to get cash out, really. Once you're there, you're stuck.
Exactly, because they supply the hotel, which is usually like a really nice hotel. They supply the driver. They supply like your tour guides, all that kind of stuff. Like they have like constant communication as well. So they'll email and talk to you on a daily basis so you don't like have any red flags or have like super well researched, like in-depth itineraries. Like so many steps are like taken in this particular scam, like to just not, I guess, just like not think it is a scam.
Right. Yeah. So let's wrap it up because we're going to get to the other 2. So basically, what's the point? We should give the spoiler away, right? Like obviously we're going to give the spoiler away, but you can go and watch it yourself. There's many more episodes to go and watch. But for this particular one, what was like the main? What's the punchline?
Yeah, so they thought it was like this big female manipulator that was doing it all. But what they found out was after all these investigations, they realized like the assistant and Wendy had like similar speech patterns and like similar accents and stuff. And they realized it was all just one dude.
So it was one guy the whole time researching all the people, communicating with them. In different voices, male and female voices, putting on accents and stuff.
Yeah, just like thrived on that world building, the manipulation, all that kind of stuff.
So it was actually, like, it's pretty crazy that one guy can pull that off. You should go and watch the episode for sure because we just gave the punchline away. But like the lengths that the dude went to get people over there and get money out of them, it's pretty incredible. Like that guy could probably be an actor or a voice actor himself because he went to such great lengths to scam people.
I know, like super in depth, just to like, and they said like the critique was on point, like it was really well like script writing, like from all like the scammers.
So the guy that was scamming them was like in on. It was like a passion project for him. Like that's a common theme with a lot of these scams. Is some of them is about money, some of them is about
just like
class and status. They want to just have some sort of notoriety because they came from like a lower class community or family or whatever. So they want to be perceived as wealthier than they are.
And then there's some that just like thrive on that control. Like they just want the whole situation.
And some just want the straight up cash.
Yeah.
Which is like the next guy. He just wanted the cash.
All right, so this next one was actually pretty interesting because it was like this young I think he started off as like 15-year-old, but he
very young.
Super, super young. But he actually supplied a lot of his own footage, which I think sort of is similar to like young people documenting what they're doing and everything like that.
Bit egotistical like us. Yeah, carry on.
We're not egotistical.
Yeah, so he was a young guy. He started off, what was his first endeavor? He was in like event planning with his parents and stuff and really loved putting on events and parties.
Yeah.
I think he was sort of like more of a nerdy type, didn't have heaps of friends in school, and then his way of like building relationships and feeling comfortable and stuff was to throw parties because everyone loves the host.
Yeah, he lived like by a lake in Connecticut, so it was like the perfect sort of like party spot. But yeah, all he wanted was like that popularity, and he's like, how can I become popular? Throw parties.
Throw sick parties.
Yeah. So that's sort of how it started. So his dad was in catering and everything, so he knew how to like throw an event because he used to pitch in with the family business and all that kind of stuff. And like from what his parents said, he was just like a driven, really motivated young kid. And they're just like normal, like blue collar, like type parents, super average. But they were like, oh, he's got like great initiative. Look at him being like this entrepreneur.
Real hustler.
Yeah, super hustler. So they had like no idea of like how much it would spiral eventually.
So obviously he's in this TV show for a reason. So where did things turn pear-shaped for this guy? What did he do? What did he do wrong?
So pretty much, as he started to get older, around about the 16 years, he started to getting pranks and like getting into trouble and like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But like the one thing was he pulled off like this huge prank and then ended up going to court and all that kind of stuff, and then ended up having to do community service. And the way he thought to do that was throw this big charity ball type thing. So then he put on this huge function, ended up being in the paper, was like really popular around town, and then ended up being like high school popular as well. And then he was like, I can do this. And then approached like this local club joint called Tuxedo Junction and be like, yo, I can put on this under 18 event.
Let me have it.
Yeah. And then started putting on all these evenings, all that kind of stuff.
So once he started throwing parties, obviously he had to get money to throw them, right?
Yeah, because he wanted to start scaling bigger and bigger and bigger. So he ended up approaching like all his friends, ended up having this big like investment sort of network, and ended up raising like 120K or something like that.
That's crazy.
Super crazy.
These must be rich kids.
Yeah.
Just throwing in 20K a pop just to invest in some party.
Yeah, there was the rich kids plus their parents and all that kind of stuff. But ended up being the show started falling through, and then he started losing some money, and then that's when it all started snowballing. He was like, to all his friends, it was profitable. Yeah, and he just ended up, getting in one investor to pay off another. It was just like this endless cycle. But because he's like this young 17-year-old, he didn't realize he was doing anything wrong. He's like, yeah, this is totally how they do
so
it.
his parties were actually losing money, and then telling his friends they were profitable, and they were just throwing in more money.
Yeah.
And basically, he just started a Ponzi scheme without knowing what a Ponzi scheme was. Taking in money from other people to pay off larger debts, and then just building and just essentially getting into more debt, but throwing bigger parties and leading more people on.
Yeah.
And he just got into a crazy point where he started flipping like fake phones and Beats by Dre.
Yeah, like all these fake electronics, and then he started like spending money, so like buying cars and clothes, and
he bought a jet ski.
He did, and that was like his ultimate downfall from the government, because they saw the jet skis and saw the spending, and they're like, we got to look into this guy. Something doesn't not add up.
No 18-year-old should have a jet ski.
No.
Maybe if you're Logan Paul.
Yeah, I think if you're one of those influencers, maybe you could have a jet ski and get away with it, but definitely not this guy, and definitely not using the investors' money to buy it. And I think it was even one of the investors, which is like obviously one of the kids, rode the jet ski as well. So he literally rode his own jet skis.
Idiots.
Yeah, I know.
Let's not spend too much time on that one, because that guy's a moron, and basically don't get sucked into Ponzi schemes. This is probably the lesson to be learned from that one,
Exactly.
which is easier said than done. But I guess the common theme with pretty much all of the scams in this TV show is that anyone's vulnerable. Like, you think you're never going to be scammed or conned, but pretty much the most unsuspecting people are the conners.
Yeah, I know, like your childhood best friend. Who would have thought? So crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah. Man. And this next one is also like a super young dude as well.
Yeah. What was the overall scam? So he was a young guy. He broke into the world of like really established world travelers, global travelers.
They call them like extreme travelers because they go to all, I think it's 193 countries.
Wow.
And there's some that you can only access like once every few years or something like that.
So these are super wealthy, elite people that have traveled all over the world, access places that pretty much 0.001% of people will ever get to.
Yeah.
And this young guy basically made a fake identity and infiltrated them, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So one of the main dudes, like Henry, ran like, it was called the Nomad Mania website. So he was one of the extreme travelers. He went to like every country by the age of 36. Crazy.
Imagine going to every single country.
I know. And like when we're watching the doco, I think he had 11 more countries to go before he like hit them like a second time. Mental. But anyway, he had this website and he was like, it's starting to build. He put out like an ad for an internship, and then this guy, Simon Baekeland applied, had like a really impressive CV, was super articulate. And then Harry was like, yeah, I'll put him on board. And then that sort of like he was intro into the extreme traveling world and started like talking to all these different people within the group, and then started building all these relationships.
So he had to get into the group though. He had to lie that he went to all these places to like be considered
like an established world traveler.
Eligible to be in the group. Yeah.
Yeah. So his whole thing was he sort of had this air of like aristocrat about him, like super wealthy. He was like, I've been to like 80 countries by the age I was 20. Like I spend summers here. Like, so pretty much like name dropping all these random countries that you'd have to be pretty wealthy to go to. And like all these super dangerous rare ones, he would be like, oh yes, I've got a family friend or something like that that will have a permit so we can go there and all that kind of stuff. So would like make up all these lies and connections. Yeah, super sus.
So what was his scam? So like obviously the scam was to get money. Mm-hmm. What was his scam?
All right. So basically his whole gist was because he was super like young and wealthy and like impressionable, he was like, I've designed these trips for you. I thought you'd be interested in going to this place. I thought you'd be interested in going to this place. Let me design like, a really nice tour. Yeah, exactly. And then started like, I guess, selling them and be like, oh, give me some money and I'll plan this trip for you.
Gotcha. So it was like making custom itineraries, like I guess like prepay, like pay half beforehand or whatever situation.
Yeah. And depending on, because they're all extreme travelers and they go to like these really, really remote places and stuff, like some trips, I think Harry, the main guy, was like puts £27,000 and that was only like for 3 trips.
Whoa.
Crazy. But there's some people that lost up to like, I think it was 166 euros as well. But he would be pretty smart about it. So some trips would be successful and then some trips would be like last minute cancellations or would have like these elaborate stories of like death in the family.
Small hit rate, small success rate just to give the impression that he was legit, and then the rest were just unfortunate series of events.
Yeah. And then it ended up just being too many fails. And then they started to do a bit of digging and like investigations and things like that. And then one of his childhood friends was like, who the hell is this? And then emailed like the extreme traveler dude and was like, yeah, this guy's a fraud. It ended up finding like a tagged photo with his sister and it all came crumbling down. It'd be like just
fake
a normal
identity.
blue collar kind of like young dude that hated his like average upbringing and just wanted to be like rich and wanted to be, rubbing shoulders with the aristocrats.
So there's a couple of common themes there. Like that's just 3 episodes out of the 10.
Yeah.
So like half of them are sort of like that style, like fake identity, trying to scam people out of money or experiences and then not pay them back essentially.
Yeah.
And then just do it that way. A lot of them are like Ponzi scheme ones where it's all based around debt and just paying off debt. And it's usually the person doing it generally isn't aware because they're usually younger, especially in that instance with that story.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to think about all the people, all the scammers in every episode and how much intention was behind it. Like some of them, they just fall into it. They make one bad decision and it sort of snowballs from there and they get stuck in a deep web of lies. And then some are like really elaborate, planned out scams.
Yeah. We have like the first one loved it because of the storyline and the type of manipulation and the control. And like the second one just wanted, you know, the fame and the popularity. Like he thought the money was like a side bonus. He just wanted to be liked by everybody. And then the third guy just wanted like the money, just wanted to, and he hasn't been charged yet either.
He went to like Antarctica with them or something, right?
Yeah, like he went to like one of these remote places that you only can go to like once every 3 years and it cost like $10,000 or something like that.
And he still scammed him.
Yeah, he was like one of the youngest guys there.
All right, well, I wish we had time to do the rest of the episodes. It was hard enough to remember those 3, to be honest. So thank you, Sarah, for keeping the notes and letting me remember the episodes. But yeah, the show was called Generation Hustle. It's on Binge here in Australia. Go check that out. No affiliate link or anything. Hit us up, Binge, I guess.
Yeah, why not?
We're waiting for you.
Yeah, we do like the content.
And then, I think it's on Hulu or an American affiliate channel. So cool. Another episode in the bag.
Yeah. Thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. The podcast is now on this new channel, Look Mum, I'm Hustling, a podcast on YouTube. Obviously, you can hear it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're now on Google Podcast and Pocket Cast. So we're now on Anchor, and Anchor sends you out to more places. So shout out Anchor.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So cool new things coming up is that's a horrible turn of phrase, but that's what we're ending with today.
That sounds good.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. Hit the like button, subscribe to the pod, leave a review. Any sort of button on the screen, just hit that.
Yeah.
And then exit. And then
that'll help out.
We'll love you. All right. See you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.